What if every morning wasn't just the start of another day, but the beginning of a new you? What if, before the world could speak into your life, you spoke truth into yourself? What if the quiet words you choose at sunrise could become the foundation of everything you build by sunset? You don't need a new year, a big event, or the perfect moment to start changing your life. Sometimes it begins with a sentence, a simple, clear reminder whispered into your own heart before anyone else gets a chance to shape your day. That's what makes mornings sacred, not because of some mystical ritual or spiritual performance, but because they offer you something rare, an open space before the noise, a stillness before the chaos, a choice before the reactions. And most people, they miss it. They wake up scrolling, reacting, rushing. But you, if you're here, it means you're ready to live with more intention. And that's something worth honoring. So, let me say I'm grateful you pressed play, because this may be the very spark that shifts your entire perspective. This isn't a lecture, it's a companion. A moment to ground yourself in something deeper than anxiety, louder than distraction, stronger than fear. We're not chasing motivation here, we're remembering clarity. As the Stoics taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's not just a quote to admire, it's a tool to live by. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through a series of affirmations, 15 phrases, spoken with intention, that will help you enter each day with clarity, courage, and calm. Not fluffy slogans, not magic spells, just real, grounded reminders that return you to the strongest part of yourself. And if one of them hits home, don't just nod and move on. Sit with it. Say it out loud. Write it down. Or share it in the comments by saying, I choose to live intentionally. That way, you're not just consuming inspiration, you're committing to transformation. Now, if you're ready to begin, take a deep breath, and let's step into this day the Stoic way. Each sunrise is more than just the turning of time, it's a quiet invitation to begin again. You've just reminded yourself that mornings hold unmatched potential. So now ask yourself this. What if this very morning, was the one that changed everything? Today isn't just a continuation of yesterday. It's a fresh canvas, untouched, waiting for you to decide how it will be painted. And that choice begins with how you see yourself right now. Maybe yesterday wasn't easy. Maybe you missed a goal, said the wrong thing, or felt like you weren't enough. But none of that defines you. That's the past knocking on the door, and you don't have to answer. Today, you have permission to begin without baggage, to rise not from perfection, but from awareness. As the early light enters your room, let it remind you gently that you've been given another chance. Not everyone gets that, so don't treat it like something ordinary. Treat it like the gift it is. Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And in this moment, your reaction can be grace. Your response can be stillness. You don't have to carry yesterday's weight. You don't have to earn this new beginning. You only have to receive it and act. Maybe that means sending the message you've been avoiding, or greeting someone with more patience, or simply deciding not to criticize yourself the way you used to. A new beginning doesn't erase the past, it reframes it. It turns what felt like an ending into fuel for growth. It reminds you that you are not bound to yesterday's identity. Each day is a silent offering. Who do you choose to be now? And if you're unsure where to start, keep it simple. Splash cold water on your face. Take one conscious breath. Then speak it softly but with belief. Today, I'll do better than I did yesterday. That simple decision won't just shift your mood, it can begin to reshape your whole life. Now that you've reminded yourself that each morning offers a clean slate, the next step is to believe in what you're capable of creating with it. And this begins with one simple truth. You have the ability to do great things. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not after you've become someone else, but now, as you are. Of course, self-doubt doesn't always agree. It shows up quietly, often disguised as comparison, whispering, "You're not ready," or "You're not enough." And when life feels uncertain, when others seem to be soaring while you're standing still, that voice can get loud. But here's something important to remember. You are not your doubts. You are not your fears. You are the one who has already endured more than most people know. You've faced obstacles, carried burdens, and still found the strength to keep going. That matters. That proves something. Your ability to do great things isn't waiting for external validation, it's already rooted in your resilience. Think back on a moment when you overcame something you once thought was impossible. Maybe you kept going when quitting felt easier. Maybe you helped someone else when you had little to give. Those were not small victories, they were proof. As Epictetus taught, no great thing is created suddenly. Greatness is not loud or flashy. It's not defined by applause or achievement. It's shaped by quiet consistency, the willingness to show up again, especially on the hard days. Just look at Vera Wang. She didn't follow a perfect plan or meet society's timeline. After years in fashion editorial, she didn't design her first wedding dress until she was 40. She simply saw a need, trusted herself, and started. And that first step became a ripple. Her story isn't about overnight success. It's about believing in your own rhythm, your own unfolding. And that's the message here. Greatness is already in you. It lives in your decisions, your courage, your quiet efforts. So when you wake up tomorrow, look at your reflection not for flaws to fix, but for potential to release. Say it clearly, I am capable of great things. Not because you've proven it to the world, but because deep down you already know it's true. And when that belief starts to settle in, something shifts. You begin to carry yourself differently. You begin to act not from fear, but from quiet confidence. Because belief is the soil and action is the seed. Now, let's explore how to turn that belief into motion. Once belief has taken root, it calls for the next natural step: movement. Because all the clarity in the world, all the inspiring affirmations, all the calm and courage you build within, none of it matters if it doesn't translate into action. That's the bridge between knowing and becoming. You can read every Stoic text, reflect on every truth, and still stay stuck if you never decide to begin. The idea that you need more time, more energy, more certainty, it's comforting, but deceptive. The truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. No sudden beam of clarity will descend from the sky. What changes your life isn't the wait, it's the walk. Even one small, messy, awkward step forward has more power than 1,000 unspoken intentions. Think about it. How many dreams have you quietly placed on hold, waiting for the right time? How many ideas stayed buried because fear of failure dressed itself up as logic? We've all done it. I've done it. I know the pull to stay where it feels safe, the illusion that delay equals preparation. But delay often becomes a trap. And while you're waiting, life keeps moving, time keeps ticking. The opportunity doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It waits for you to choose. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He didn't become the inventor of the light bulb by perfecting a plan he failed thousands of times. But he showed up again and again. He acted. Or J.K. Rowling, who didn't wait for comfort or convenience to create Harry Potter. She wrote in the middle of hardship, with a child to care for, in cafes, on scraps of paper. Her story wasn't built on ideal conditions, it was built on persistence. These aren't superhuman feats. They are ordinary decisions made daily with extraordinary belief behind them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's exactly what this moment calls for. Less explaining, more stepping. Less hoping, more doing. When you feel that tug to wait, to hold back until it all makes sense, pause and remind yourself, action is the antidote. So tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the ground, speak it out loud. Today, I will take action. And don't overthink what that means. Maybe it's sending an email you've delayed. Maybe it's putting on your shoes and walking 5 minutes. Maybe it's opening a journal and writing one line. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. Because once you act, you gain momentum. And once you have momentum, everything starts to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you finally did. Let's build on that strength with the next truth. Now that you've reminded yourself to act, not just to believe, it's time to carry that momentum into the unknowns of your day. Because no matter how prepared or centered you feel, life has a way of tossing curveballs when you least expect them. Maybe you woke up to a difficult message, a daunting schedule, or just a sense of heaviness you can't quite explain. And in that space, doubt begins to whisper again, can I really manage all of this? That's when you pause, place your hand over your heart, and remind yourself of something deeper than emotion. I am capable. I am confident in my ability to handle what this day brings. You don't need to know how the entire day will unfold. You don't need a detailed plan for every challenge ahead. What you do need is a grounded sense of self-trust, a quiet understanding that whatever shows up, you will meet it with presence. You've done this before. You've weathered storms you never thought you'd survive. You've stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. That resilience, that calm strength, it didn't disappear. It's still inside you, waiting to be remembered. The Stoics never promised an easy life. What they offered was a way to face life. Not through denial, but through discipline. Not through fantasy, but through focus. It's not what happens to you, Epictetus said, but how you react to it that matters. And this affirmation becomes your compass. It helps you navigate not with fear, but with grace. It's a reminder that even when circumstances feel chaotic, your inner state doesn't have to mirror the chaos. You can be surrounded by noise and still choose stillness. You can receive bad news and still respond with intention. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Think about it. How many times have you surprised yourself by staying calm when others panicked? How often have you stepped up when you felt unprepared, but showed up anyway? These are not small things. They're glimpses of your strength. So today, carry that memory with you. Let it become your shield. When tension rises, when pressure mounts, when things don't go your way, return to that inner voice. The one that knows, you've been here before. You've walked through difficulty and found your way out stronger. Say it clearly, I am capable. I trust myself. Because this kind of confidence isn't built on perfection. It's built on presence. And it's exactly what will guide you through today. After reminding yourself of your strength to handle anything that comes your way, it's time to anchor that strength in something even more powerful: gratitude. Because no matter how chaotic or uncertain life becomes, there is always something worth honoring. And that honoring begins with three simple things: your health, your loved ones, and the opportunities still in front of you. When you wake up and take your first conscious breath, that in itself is a quiet miracle. No alarms, no applause, just the rhythm of life still moving through you. And yet, how often do we overlook that gift? We only notice our health when something breaks. We only feel the weight of a loved one's presence when they're gone. We chase opportunities while ignoring the ones quietly waiting within reach. But when you shift your attention even for a moment, you realize just how rich your life already is. If your body moved today, if your breath came easily, if your mind is alert enough to hear these words, you are already ahead of millions. Not in competition, but in blessing. And that awareness changes you. It softens you. It brings your heart back into rhythm with the things that truly matter. Think of someone like Nick Vujicic. Born without arms or legs, he could have spent his life consumed by what he lacked. But instead, he chose to focus on what remained: a sharp mind, a compassionate soul, a message worth sharing. Through gratitude, he didn't just survive, he inspired. His story reminds us that it's not our conditions that shape our spirit, but our perspective. You don't need to have it all together to be thankful. You just need to notice what's still good, even when it's quiet, even when it's small, like the warmth of morning sunlight, the voice of someone who checks in, the comfort of a familiar song. Gratitude doesn't ignore the pain. It simply says, yes, this is hard, but I still have something worth holding on to. And when you start your day with that mindset, it shapes everything else. You become more patient, more grounded, more present. So today, don't wait for life to be perfect before you give thanks. Give thanks because you are alive to witness it, because you have people, whether many or few, who care about you. Because even in your struggles, there is still purpose unfolding. Say it slowly. I am grateful for my health. I am grateful for the people who love me. I am grateful for the chances I still have. And mean it. That one moment of awareness may not change the world, but it will change the way you carry it. Now that your heart is grounded in gratitude, let's face something that often stands between your intention and your growth: fear. Not just any fear, but the fear of failure. It hides behind hesitation. It whispers when you hesitate to speak up, to try, to dream a little bigger. And yet, when you name it, when you truly face it, you begin to realize something powerful. Failure isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. I used to carry that fear like armor, thinking it would protect me from disappointment. I'd decline opportunities that felt risky. I'd step back when I should have leaned forward. Not because I lacked ability, but because I feared the sting of getting it wrong. And the strange part? The more I avoided failure, the more I shrank. The smaller my world became. Until one day, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What's the worst that could happen? And to my surprise, the answer wasn't terrifying. It was freeing. Because most of what I feared was imagined, embellished, inflated in the echo chamber of my own mind. Real failure isn't the end. It's a comma, not a period. It's a redirection, not a rejection. Look at the stories we admire. The entrepreneurs who built empires, the artists whose work shapes generations, the leaders who changed the world. Their paths are not paved with uninterrupted success. They're paved with missteps, detours, closed doors, and broken plans. Behind every public victory is a private reckoning, a silent fall, a tearful night. And that's not weakness, that's the process. My first real failure was more than a disappointment, it was a collapse. A business I believed in deeply fell apart, taking all my savings with it. I was devastated, embarrassed, ashamed. But over time, I began to see that what I gained was far more valuable than what I lost. I learned how to manage fear, how to rebuild, how to hold pain without letting it define me. No mentor could have taught me that. No book could have prepared me like life did. And slowly, I started to trust failure not as something to avoid, but as a companion that reveals what I still need to grow into. That's what Stoic wisdom offers us, not a life free from difficulty, but a mindset that turns difficulty into refinement. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's exactly what failure can become, not a detour, but the very ground you grow from. When you shift your relationship with failure, you stop fearing the fall and start focusing on the climb. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and begin asking, "What will I learn if I do?" That shift is everything. So tomorrow, or even today, when you feel yourself holding back because of that old familiar fear, take a breath. Speak it softly at first if you need to, then louder, stronger. I am not afraid of failure. Because failure does not make you less, it makes you more. More aware, more prepared, more resilient. Every scar has a lesson. Every setback, a secret strength. When you begin to believe that failure is part of your progress, not proof of your inadequacy, you free yourself from needing everything to go perfectly. And in that freedom, you'll find the courage to try again and again, until the thing that once scared you becomes the thing that shaped you. Let's move forward now with a mindset that reflects this freedom, the choice to meet each day with positivity. Once you've made peace with the idea that failure is not the end but a path to growth, there's a deeper power waiting for you, the ability to choose how you carry yourself into each moment. And that begins with one quiet but life-changing commitment. Today, I will face this day with a positive attitude. Now, this isn't about ignoring reality or pretending things are always fine. It's about choosing strength in the face of uncertainty, choosing light when everything in you wants to shrink into shadow. And there's no better example of this than Nelson Mandela. Imagine waking up each morning for 27 years in a prison cell, stripped of freedom, family, and justice. Most would have surrendered to anger or bitterness. But Mandela, he chose hope. He chose to smile in the face of pain. He chose to lead from within. "I have learned that courage is not the absence of fear," he once said, "but the triumph over it." And that's exactly what a positive attitude is. It's not naivety. It's quiet defiance. It's looking life in the eye and saying, "You will not break me." We may not be in a physical prison, but we all face invisible ones, tight schedules, harsh expectations, emotional weights that cloud the mind. And in those moments, your mindset is your power. You can't control every event. You can't predict every twist, but you can absolutely choose how you respond. And that response, when it comes from peace instead of panic, from optimism instead of complaint, it becomes a kind of silent leadership. Not just for yourself, but for those around you. A positive attitude doesn't just lift your own spirit, it spreads. It softens harsh conversations. It brings calm to chaos. It reminds people, without a word, that grace is still possible. And here's the quiet truth most overlook. Positivity is not loud. It doesn't always wear a smile. Sometimes it's just the decision to keep going without bitterness, to keep loving when it's hard, to keep believing when results don't come. So as you begin this day, ask yourself, what energy do I want to bring into the world? What kind of presence do I want to be in the room? When challenges rise, as they always do, return to that question. Choose the attitude that lifts. Choose the mindset that heals. And say it again, not just with words, but with intention. I will face this day with a positive attitude. That one choice made daily builds a life of resilience. And that's what Stoic living is all about. Not perfection, but presence. Let's carry that presence into the next truth, a reminder not just for the world around you, but for the person within. After choosing to walk into each day with a positive mindset, there's another powerful shift that often goes overlooked: being kind to yourself. Not just on good days, not just when everything goes right, but especially when it doesn't. When you stumble, when you fall short, when the inner critic starts speaking louder than your inner peace. That's when you need to pause and say, today, I will treat myself kindly. Most of us have no problem offering compassion to others. If a friend messes up, we reassure them. If someone we care about is struggling, we remind them they're doing their best. But when we're the ones hurting or failing, we often turn cold. We say things we would never say to another person. Why are you like this? You always ruin things. You're not good enough. And yet none of those words help us grow. They only harden the very parts of us that are already bruised. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." And that includes the way you estimate yourself. Being kind to yourself doesn't mean lowering your standards. It doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means acknowledging your humanity. It means offering yourself the same grace you so freely give to others. Think of the times you didn't meet your goals. Was the plan too rigid? Were you simply exhausted? Were you trying to survive while also expecting perfection? Self-kindness lets you ask those questions without shame. It invites you to reset, not retreat, to reflect, not punish, and most importantly, it helps you move forward from love, not fear. It shows up in quiet decisions like choosing to rest when your body needs it, like saying no to something that overwhelms you, like taking a walk, preparing a nourishing meal, or just sitting in stillness because your soul needs softness. These moments may seem small, but they are radical acts of self-respect. They say, I matter. I am allowed to be tired. I am allowed to heal. I am allowed to begin again. And in a world that constantly demands more output, more performance, more perfection, this choice to be gentle with yourself becomes a powerful rebellion. It tells your nervous system, you are safe here. You are not just a machine for productivity. You are a human being growing in your own rhythm. So the next time you hear that inner critic rise up, meet it with kindness. Respond not with judgment, but with care. And whisper the reminder your heart longs to hear. I will treat myself kindly, because I am worthy of kindness even from myself. Let's carry that spirit forward into the next affirmation. A truth that returns your power back where it belongs. Once you begin treating yourself with kindness, a deeper realization begins to emerge, one that reclaims the power you may have given away without even knowing it. It's this: I am responsible for my own happiness. And while that might sound obvious on the surface, living it takes strength. Because the world constantly offers another version of the story, one where your happiness depends on someone else, something else, some outcome just out of reach. We're told, you'll be happy when you get the job, when the relationship is perfect, when you look a certain way, when everything finally falls into place. But the problem with this kind of thinking is simple. It makes joy conditional. It teaches you to chase instead of choose, to wait instead of act, to depend on circumstances that are always shifting instead of building peace from within. The Stoics saw through this illusion. Epictetus said it plainly, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In those few words lies the heart of emotional freedom. It reminds you that while you cannot control every event, you always have control over your response. And from that response flows your sense of peace or your pain. I remember a friend named Cindy who went through a season that would have broken many. Within weeks, she lost her job, ended a long-term relationship, and found herself far from family support. It would have been easy for her to give in to despair. But instead, she made one quiet decision. Every morning, she would write down 3 things she was grateful for. At first, they were simple hot tea, morning sun, a clean towel. But slowly, those small choices rewired her perception. Her circumstances didn't magically change overnight, but her inner state did. She started smiling again. She began to believe not that life was perfect, but that she could still feel joy inside of imperfection. She reclaimed the one thing no one could take from her, her attitude. And you can do the same. Every morning is a chance to choose again, to stop outsourcing your emotional life to people, to outcomes, to the past, to stop blaming and start building. When you say, "I am responsible for my own happiness," you're not denying your pain, you're declaring your power. You're reminding yourself that your mood is not at the mercy of someone else's behavior. That peace is not a reward for perfection, it's the result of presence. So today, take it back. That moment when someone frustrates you, pause, breathe, and choose your response. That conversation where disappointment rises, remind yourself, you're allowed to feel, but you're also allowed to protect your peace. Say it slowly and mean it. I am responsible for my own happiness. Because the world may not hand you joy, but you can create it. One thought at a time, one choice at a time. And when you do, you stop waiting to feel alive, you start living. Once you've reclaimed responsibility for your own happiness, the next step is learning how to protect it. Not by controlling the world, but by mastering what happens inside you. And that begins with a truth that many overlook. I have control over my thoughts and emotions. Life will continue to surprise you. There will be moments when someone says something hurtful, when a plan falls apart, when traffic makes you late, or an email ruins your mood before breakfast. But none of those things get to decide how your entire day unfolds unless you let them. Your mind is your domain, and no one enters it unless you open the door. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't chase emotional perfection, they pursued emotional ownership. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a comforting thought, it's a practical tool. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your body reacts: tight chest, clenched jaw, racing pulse. But in that split second, a choice opens. You can stay trapped in that anger, carry it into the next hour, the next conversation, or you can pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this really worth giving away my peace? Choosing not to react impulsively isn't weakness, it's composure. It's inner leadership. And that's what this affirmation is about. It's not about denying your emotions or suppressing them. It's about seeing them clearly and responding with intention. If you feel frustrated, notice it, but don't let it lead. If sadness shows up, sit with it, but don't hand it the steering wheel. Because every time you choose presence over panic, clarity over chaos, calm over reactivity, you're reinforcing your inner strength. You're building mental discipline. And over time, that becomes your default, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Think of your mind like a garden. Thoughts will come, some helpful, some destructive. But you decide what stays. You choose what gets watered, what gets pulled, what gets space to grow. And that awareness, that's real freedom. So tomorrow morning, or even right now, when a feeling tries to overtake you, pause, name it, and then remind yourself, I am not powerless. I can choose what I think. I can choose how I feel. I am in control of my thoughts and emotions. That one decision creates a ripple. It changes how you speak, how you act, how you relate to others. And most importantly, it reminds you that even when the world outside feels overwhelming, your internal world can remain steady. And that steadiness, that's the foundation for peace. Once you've learned to calm the storms within, there's another shift waiting to happen. One that's quieter, but just as powerful. It's the decision to let the good in. To not just survive, not just manage, but to believe, I deserve success and happiness. And for many people, that's the hardest truth to accept. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that joy must be earned. That we must struggle enough, prove enough, suffer enough before we're worthy of rest, of love, of pride. But that belief, it's not wisdom, it's a weight. And the Stoics didn't carry it. They didn't measure a person's worth by their accomplishments or pain tolerance. They measured it by integrity, by inner discipline, by how one chose to live regardless of applause. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask whether he deserved peace. He practiced it. Epictetus didn't wait for the world to validate him. He found strength in what he could control and let go of the rest. And you can too. Because your value doesn't come from being flawless or endlessly productive. It comes from being here, trying, showing up with honesty even when things are messy. Somewhere deep down, you may still hear the voice that says you're not ready, that you need to do more, be more, earn more before you're allowed to feel happy. But that voice is not truth, it's just noise. And you have the power to silence it. You don't need permission to feel joy. You don't need to reach some perfect version of yourself before you celebrate who you already are. You are not broken, waiting to be fixed. You are not behind anyone. You are simply unfolding at your own pace, in your own way, and that's enough. Think of someone like you, admire someone who radiates calm, purpose, joy. Do you admire them because they're perfect? Or because they live with depth, with compassion, with courage? The truth is, people who allow themselves to feel worthy create lives that reflect that belief. They don't demand the spotlight, they attract it by being rooted, by being real. So today, let that be you. Let yourself receive the good things that life offers, not with guilt, but with gratitude. Say it out loud, I deserve success. I deserve happiness. Not someday now, not because everything is perfect, but because your presence, your growth, your effort, they matter. And the more you allow yourself to receive joy, the more you'll be able to give it. That's the paradox. When you finally believe you're enough, you have more to share. So carry that belief gently, and let's step into the next truth together. When you begin to believe that you're worthy of joy, there's a simple but powerful choice that helps protect that joy day after day. I choose gratitude over complaint. It sounds small, almost too simple to matter. But this one decision repeated each morning can shift the entire way you experience your life. Because both gratitude and complaint look at the same moment. One sees what's present. The other fixates on what's missing. One softens your heart. The other tightens it. And the difference isn't in your circumstances, it's in your attention. The Stoics weren't strangers to hardship. They knew pain, injustice, loss, and yet they chose to find meaning, not misery. They trained their minds to see what remained rather than what was removed. Because they understood that suffering often begins not with events, but with judgment, not with life itself, but with our refusal to accept what is. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That is not resignation, it's wisdom. It's realizing that complaint drains your energy, while gratitude restores it. Imagine starting your morning not with a sigh, but with a pause. Not with frustration about the tasks ahead, but with appreciation for the chance to even face them. Think of the coffee in your hands, the roof over your head, the ability to walk, to speak, to hear these words. These aren't small things, they're everyday miracles. And when you see them clearly, your complaints lose their grip. Nick Vujicic embodies this truth more than most. Born without arms or legs, he had every reason to live in bitterness. But he chose differently. He chose gratitude for his voice, his mind, his ability to uplift others. And because of that choice, he's impacted millions not by having more, but by appreciating what he already had. That's the kind of mindset that changes not just your mood, but your mission. When you choose gratitude, you start showing up differently. You speak with more patience. You listen with more presence. You walk through life with a softness that others can feel. Gratitude doesn't erase your struggles, but it gives you the strength to carry them with grace. And that's what this affirmation is about. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about refusing to let what's wrong overshadow what's still right. So tomorrow morning, or even right now, pause for just 10 seconds and whisper 3 things you're thankful for. Say them slowly. Let them land. Then say it clearly. I choose gratitude over complaint. Not because it fixes everything, but because it changes how you carry everything. It brings you back to center. It grounds you. And it reminds you that even in an imperfect world, there is still so much worth holding on to. Let's continue from that grounded space into the next truth about your growth. When you begin each day with gratitude instead of complaint, something subtle starts to shift. You become more aware not just of what you have, but of who you're becoming. And that awareness leads you to this quiet, grounding truth. I am growing every day. Not in loud ways. Not always in ways others will notice, but in the small, steady movements that shape your character, your discipline, and your peace. You may not always feel it. Some days might blur together, and you wonder if anything is really changing. You still make mistakes. You still get tired. You still wrestle with the same thoughts. But growth isn't a dramatic event, it's a series of unseen decisions. It's choosing not to argue when you used to. It's walking away from chaos instead of running toward it. It's pausing to breathe when you feel overwhelmed and realizing that moment of pause, that one breath is already proof you're different from who you were. Stoic wisdom never promised instant transformation. Epictetus reminded us, no great thing is created suddenly. And that applies to your progress too. Just because change isn't visible doesn't mean it's not happening. Think of a tree in winter. From the outside, it looks still, lifeless even. But beneath the surface, roots are growing deeper. Cells are preparing. Life is unfolding just quietly. That's you. You're not behind. You're simply becoming. I remember a friend who once told me, I feel like I'm doing all this work, healing, learning, trying, but no one sees it. It's like I'm invisible. Months later, she realized she no longer panicked during conflict. She responded with grace instead of shutting down. That's growth. It didn't arrive with fireworks, but with a quiet strength that changed how she showed up. You may not see it right away, but one day someone will say, you seem calmer, or you'll face a familiar trigger and this time you'll choose differently. And you'll know, I'm not stuck, I'm evolving. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to keep going. Keep choosing stillness when your mind races. Keep choosing presence when distraction calls. Keep choosing to rise after each fall. Because growth isn't about becoming someone else, it's about remembering who you already are beneath the noise. So today, say it not as a wish, but as a fact. I am growing every day. And believe it. Even when the steps are small, even when no one claps, even when it feels invisible. Because the most meaningful growth rarely announces itself, it simply reveals itself over time in how gently you treat others and how gracefully you walk through the fire. Now let's move forward to a truth that brings all this growth home, the radical acceptance that you are already enough. As you begin to recognize your quiet daily growth, there's one truth that rises gently to the surface, a truth that doesn't demand anything from you, but invites you to rest in it. I am complete in myself. In a world that constantly tells you to upgrade, improve, push harder, be more, it might feel almost rebellious to believe you are already enough. But that's exactly what Stoic wisdom offers. Not just tools for action, but permission for peace. You are not a broken project. You are not a draft waiting to be perfected. You are a full living human being with complexity, with light and shadow, with the capacity to grow and the right to rest. The modern world whispers, you'll be enough when you look a certain way, when you make a certain amount, when you finally feel worthy, but that when keeps moving. The finish line keeps shifting, and you're left chasing a sense of self that was already here all along. You see, being complete doesn't mean you stop growing. It doesn't mean you reject ambition or desire. It simply means that your worth isn't hanging in the balance, that you don't have to prove yourself in order to belong, that you can want more for your life while still honoring who you are right now. I once spoke with a young artist, talented, thoughtful, passionate, but she was ready to quit. If no one buys my work, maybe it's just not good enough, she said. But it wasn't about the art. It was about identity. She had fused her worth with the world's reaction. And that is a trap many of us fall into. But something changed when she stopped painting for approval. When she stopped chasing praise and started reconnecting with the joy of creation itself, her work deepened, her energy softened, and slowly, without forcing it, people began to notice. Not because she became something else, but because she finally allowed herself to be fully her. And that's the shift. You don't find completeness by arriving somewhere out there. You find it by coming home to yourself, your story, your softness, your fire. Stoic thought reminds us that no external thing can add to or subtract from your inner worth. No compliment makes you more valuable. No rejection makes you less. You are not incomplete because you're still on the journey. You are whole in the journey. So next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll feel better when," pause, challenge it. Ask yourself, what if I am already enough? What if the love I've been waiting for is the love I've been withholding from myself? What if peace isn't something I have to chase, but something I have to remember? Say it gently, say it firmly. I am complete in myself. Not because everything is perfect, but because I no longer need to prove that I belong. I belong here, as I am. And from that place of fullness, I can grow not out of lack, but out of joy. That is the kind of growth that lasts. And now, from this rooted, quiet confidence, let's close with one final affirmation, a reflection that ties all the others together in the simplest way. After everything you've reminded yourself today about strength, grace, growth, and self-worth, there's one final truth that brings it all together. I choose to live with intention, not by accident, not on autopilot, but with awareness, with presence, with purpose. You see, life will always try to pull you into its currents. Distractions will come, noise will rise. The world will constantly tell you what to do, what to want, what to chase. But intention is your anchor. It's the quiet decision to pause before you speak, to breathe before you react, to ask, is this aligned with who I'm becoming? Instead of, will this impress anyone else? Living with intention doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you care enough to ask better questions. It means waking up and choosing not just to exist, but to direct your energy toward what actually matters. That might mean slowing down instead of speeding up. It might mean saying no to something tempting because your peace is worth more. It might mean being fully present in a conversation, setting down your phone, and truly listening. These are not dramatic gestures. They're small, sacred choices, and they are what shape the course of your life. Stoic wisdom was never about chasing a perfect outcome. It was always about living fully in the present, controlling what you can, accepting what you can't, and walking forward with clarity. So when you say, I choose to live with intention, you're not claiming to have it all figured out. You're simply promising to stay awake to your values, to your inner compass, to the quiet wisdom within you. And when you live that way, your days begin to take on a different rhythm. They feel less frantic, more grounded, less reactive, more deliberate. You notice beauty in places you used to rush past. You respond to challenges with a little more calm. You start becoming the kind of person who doesn't just move through life, but moves with life. And over time, that shift changes everything. Not because life becomes easier, but because you do. So now, as this reflection comes to a close, I invite you to carry one sentence with you into the rest of your day. Today, I choose to live with intention. Whisper it, write it, live it. Let it shape your words, your thoughts, your posture, your peace. Because this is more than a morning affirmation, it's a way of being. Thank you for being here, for showing up not just to watch a video, but to truly listen to your life. If something in this message touched you, if one phrase echoed in your soul, share it in the comments. Say it out loud. Let others know. I choose to live with intention. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and explore our full Stoic Wisdom playlist. These aren't just videos, they're companions for your journey. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and keep walking your path with calm, courage, and intention.